I'm Creative Ceci, and welcome to episode 2 of Ceci Knits the World, my podcast. What? I did a thing. I'm so excited to welcome you to my second podcast. For this podcast, I'm going to talk about a couple of the places that I went this spring, because we're now in summer. And I've got to get into a rhythm of this filming and editing podcast and getting it out there. Podcast 1 really taught me a lot. I already knew that I was a bit of a perfectionist, which can be a hindrance, right? So podcast 1 really gave me a chance to learn a few editing skills. Podcast 2, when this one releases, it'll definitely be a little bit more of me understanding how to edit, because you know, the perfectionist that I am, I'm looking and aspiring to the wonderful podcasters that I know, Danny of Gemma Darling's Daily and Kristy Glass of Kristy Glass Knits, Chelsea Yarns, Hey Brownberry, Gigi Made It, to name a few. And I'm looking at their skills thinking, okay, I could do that. So much easier to sit and watch than to actually sit and edit. Trust me, I am learning a lot. I hope to get better with each podcast, with each attempt. So it's definitely a learning curve. And so, you know, I'm excited to go on this journey, a combination of sharing my knitting and my travels, but also of my skills of being able to be a better storyteller, really tell stories that are interesting, that would let you want to come back and hear what I have to say, right? As well as that are fun to watch, not painful. Like, I don't want my editing skills to be so horrible that you're like, oh, I can't even bear to sit through that. So this is a lesson for me. I'm going to be growing, and again, I'm always welcome to feedback. The feedback is a gift, and so I'm asking and open to any ideas and things I should be doing differently and so forth. So that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm hoping that I could do. So episode 2, I want to share a little bit about what I've been doing since March, since the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I've been doing a lot. So I'm gonna try to give a snapshot of where I've been and what I've done. And then at the end, I'll show some photos, because I'm always capturing the photos. The other thing that I've learned is I need to film more. I'm so used to taking pictures and Instagramming that I need to, you know, I'll have my camera, I'll have my iPhone, and I will automatically go to the iPhone, right? So I gotta practice so that I can get more footage, because I need it now, right? So anyway, let's get started. Gonna bookend this podcast with Stitch Up Chicago and my most recent trip to London, which I'm so excited to share. So April brought me to Chicago. It was not only my daughter's birthday, but Kristy Glass's birthday. They actually are birthday twins. But that weekend, I accompanied Kristy to Stitch Up Chicago, hosted by Michelle of 144 Stitches. And Lewis was also a host, Brooklyn Boy Knits. And that was a 2-day yarn festival, fun. I wouldn't call it a festival. I would more just call it like a meetup, right? An extended meetup. Because the festival, to me, I think has more activities, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But it was, you know, I think it was really good what Michelle was able to accomplish in bringing people together, and providing them with yarn and lessons and opportunity to network and knit and learn new stitches. If you didn't know how to knit, you can knit. If you didn't know how to crochet, you can crochet. So it had the best of both worlds, as the opportunity to meet new people. So one of the key things that I think Michelle did do, she actually did do, was encourage people to not just sit with the same group. So she would yell switch, and you would have to get up and move and go sit with someone else and go knit or crochet or just chat. And so I thought that was really good at fostering a community. So if you came by yourself, which I saw a few people did, you got to meet new people. You didn't just meet the one person, or if you came with a friend, you didn't just talk to your friend. So I thought that was super fun. While in Chicago, we did take a step away during the free time, Lewis and I, and we went to YarnCon. Didn't know that was a thing. sounds like something I need to know about. So off we went to Discover Yarn Con, which was more like a festival or conference, you know, booths and vendors. I do believe they had classes. I'm not exactly sure, but we did get a chance to walk around the floor and meet some of the vendors. What I love about, you know, the ability to go different places, and what I'm hoping to bring you more of through other episodes of Ceci Knits the World, is to meet people and see places that we don't always get to see, because again, didn't know that there was a yarn con in Chicago, right? And while we were there, I met the sisters of Beautiful Sisters, Heather and Hillary. They make amazing bags. I met I Feel Like Dying, that is Tiana, and her interesting yarn and her fun aesthetics. Also got to meet Kirsty Cat, who I'd already been in talks with for the Allentown Fiber Festival, which is another thing I did in April. And I got to meet the ladies, the crew from Llama Llama Ding Dong Yarn Shop. Say that a couple times fast. So, you know, again, I would not have had the opportunity to connect with them. Maybe I would have met them or been aware of them on Instagram, but actually getting to see them and meet and chat, you know, super fun, really exciting, and something that me as an extrovert, I love doing. I love meeting new people, interesting people. So my time in Chicago was very well spent. I should say, if you see me looking down, is because I want to keep myself honest. And so I have my planner in front of me, and so I'm a big planner person. I love my planner. I keep everything here. I write everything down. I also like to save the little remnants. So I'm into stickers and colors, and so when you look at my planner, it becomes almost a memory book, right? And so as I'm looking down, I'm being reminded of everything that I did. So this is the page for when I went to EYF, right? So everything from the talk at EYF to the Kaylee stickers to photos of my housemates, of the BIPOC meetup, right? So I love using a planner. I also actually use it to help me set goals, right? So now Ceci Knits the World, the knitting, and now the planner conversation, right? So I have my planner in front of me to keep me honest. So that's, if you see my eyes looking down, that's what I'm doing, just to make sure that I don't miss sharing some important tidbit of the time. So after Stitch Up Chicago, the very next week was the Allentown Fiber Festival. I had also never been to the Allentown Fiber Festival. It's really amazing to me, for, you know, how many festivals and but opportunities that have popped up to bring yarn and knitting and fiber and everything to different communities. And so I really love that. And I love that now I'm getting an opportunity to take myself to these places that I would not normally get to go to. So Allentown Fiber Festival, Lewis, Brooklyn Boy Knits, and I were invited to do a diversity community conversation. I love this opportunity because it was a smaller group. It wasn't just us speaking. It was really a conversation. It was interactive. We kind of had like a circle going, and people were sharing their stories and their perspective, and it was just a really good conversation, because while a lot of good has come out of the conversation that we're having now about the lack of diversity and inclusion on all aspects, and equity, and being anti-racist, everything, it's great that, you know, we're having these conversations, but sometimes it's hard to have them in social media, right? So sometimes it's good to be able to connect with people face to face, to sit down and talk and hear their story, and you share your story, and you get to really connect. And I think that's so important, and I think that's the thing that's probably needed most as we all try to move the community forward in a positive way. So Allentown Fiber Festival was definitely an opportunity for Lewis and I to come in and share our backgrounds and share our platforms and talk about, you know, where we wanted to, or how we wanted to be involved in advancing the conversation. Fun at Allentown, in addition to seeing the fiberists and getting some yarn from them, and seeing Chelsea yarn, so Christina and Red Bank Mike and Miriam of Chelsea Yarn. I also got to hang out a little bit for a little time with Stephanie of Asylum Fibers and Corrado Lark. So it's a combination of, you know, using my time there to meet new people, to see my friends, as well as to continue to do something to, again, be a positive voice in this conversation in the community. So my time in Allentown, very well spent. I did make some acquisitions. Of course, they're someplace in a bag someplace, because I'm trying to knit more, trying to knit faster with my little injured arm. It's not going as well as planned, but I'm sticking with it. So hopefully I will have more to show in terms of the ending product of all of my knitting, not just the acquisitions of yarn. So that was April. April for work also took me to LA, and I got to go to knit night at the Knitting Tree in LA with my knit friend Lisa Knits. That's her Instagram name. So whenever I come to LA, we meet up and we go knit and we grab a bite to eat. And you know, I'm really fortunate that I've developed relationships in a lot of the places where work will take me, because then I get to step aside at the end of the workday and decompress with knitting with friends. So also always a good time. So then April brought me to May, and May, the yarn husband and I went to Costa Rica for a weekend there. I did a lot of knitting while there. I worked on my hat Dana, the pattern by Byron Handmade, Handmade, Denise, and I thought there was a yarn store, I thought there was a place where you can buy yarn in Costa Rica, but we never found it. Because then when I got there and I tried to Yelp it or Google it or whatever, I was coming up empty. And then when I got home, someone was like, oh, there is a place where you can buy yarn. It's not a typical yarn shop, but it's a shop that sells yarn. All right, so miss on our part. So hopefully if our travels ever take us back to Costa Rica, we will get the opportunity to get some yarn and visit a yarn shop as well. Also in May, I took a class and learned a new thing. In addition to learning how to edit, I also took a class with Lavanya to learn how to brioche, something that I'm still not fully there yet, but I am practicing. So I knew I wanted to not let my lack of learning how to brioche have me like scared to take patterns. I definitely was intimidated. I would see a pattern, and if it had brioche, I would put it down. I would keep moving on because I didn't know how to do it. And everyone said, oh, it's so easy, you can learn. So they say. I did take a class a few years ago at Vogue to learn how to brioche, but you know, nothing against the instructor, but the class was really large, and for me anyway, I needed a little more attention, and I picked it up but didn't get it completely. I was able to do a couple of rows in the class, but the next day I couldn't remember a thing. So I knew I needed more practice, and so I was super happy that Lavanya was teaching a class. The other thing, I love the Brooklyn yarn shops. I love how they collaborate and how they work together. And so String Thing Studio, so Felicia of String Thing Studio and Catherine of Brooklyn General, they partnered to offer this opportunity to take the brioche class in the backyard of String Thing Studio. So there were about 12 students, if I'm not mistaken. So really intimate class. Lavanya was able to walk around to each person, get you started, go to the next person, come back. So I definitely feel I got a little bit more of a grasp on it. I've been practicing. I have to keep practicing because it hasn't stuck completely yet, because when I pick it up, I'm like, what am I doing? So still trying to, you know, learn it and make it second nature. That hasn't happened yet, but I'm glad that I took the class, and I'm gonna hold myself accountable to continue practicing. So hopefully at some point I will show you some of the work that I was able to do from my brioche class. Okay, so that was May. Time goes really fast, right? I know for me anyway, it definitely does. And then June brought us to Stitch Up Brooklyn. So in talking to Michelle, we were like, yeah, Stitch Up Chicago was really fun. Yeah, of course I could see it here in New York. And Michelle's like, guess what? Coming to Brooklyn. So Stitch Up Brooklyn was, I think, the second weekend in June. It was also the weekend of Worldwide Knit in Public Day. Also the anniversary of String Thing Studio, Felicia's yarn shop. So a lot to get done, a lot to visit. So Stitch Up Brooklyn, much like Chicago, the same platform, same the premise, the opportunity to bring people together, to learn a new stitch, knit, to crochet, to have fun, and be in the community or build a community is what I should say, which again I think happened very organically, like it did in Chicago. So good times there. The difference for me, Brooklyn, Chicago, of course I knew a few more people here because it's in New York and I live in New York, so I knew a lot more of the attendees, but still met new people. So there's always an opportunity to meet someone, even people who live locally who I hadn't got to meet yet. So that was fun. The Friday night of Stitch Up Brooklyn, we worked with Naomi to work on pieces that would ultimately become some yarn art, some yarn bombing art. I'll show some photos of that at the end. That was fun to be a part of something bigger than just my one little project. We all contributed and worked on pieces to contribute to the artwork. Also on the Saturday of Stitch Up Brooklyn, we took the ferry over to the Brooklyn Bridge. So I had not taken the ferry from Greenpoint, so that was fun as well. And we're all, of course, knitting in public on the boat. The Dominator made an appearance in the heat. God bless her. And we made it over to the Brooklyn Bridge to take some photos by the carousel and under the bridge. And then we had free time. So with it being Worldwide Knit in Public Day, we jumped on the train to head over to Bryant Park to meet up with the Knitty City family, Pearl and crew, because that's a tradition. I think we've been doing Worldwide Knit in Public Day with Knitty City at least 6 or 7 years, if not more. So couldn't let, you know, a Knit in Public Day come and we not go and support them. The other thing was that it was the second anniversary of String Thing Studios. So Felicia and String Thing Studios in Brooklyn, this was her second anniversary. And while it feels like Felicia's been a part of the community forever, it really does. She's only been a yarn shop there for 2 years and become such an integral part of the festivities, right? So Friday night knit night, Game of Thrones watching, men's knit night, so many things that have been put into existence because of Felicia and String Thing. So we could not let her anniversary pass without going there. And so a few of us left from Bryant Park, got on the train and went over to String Thing, only to be met by a handful of other people also at Stitch Up Brooklyn, who the day before during the yarn crawl had lunch at String Thing Studio and wanted to come back to spend more time with Felicia. So I thought that was really sweet. We got an opportunity to say a quick toast and cheers and wish her well on the second anniversary and wish her many, many more years of success in business, and take a quick shot, a quick photo, because if we don't capture a photo, did it really happen? So from there back to Stitch Up Brooklyn to finish off the night with Tacos and Kits, sponsored by Knit Crate. Busy weekend, but you know, when you're doing something that you enjoy, the time goes fast, but you're having a really good time, and that's what's important. Following Stitch Up Brooklyn, 2 weeks off, then I ended the month with another retreat that I did not know about. Again, how are these things happening, right? I think I'm connected and plugged in, but I love always learning about new things and places and people. So the thing that I learned about was Stockinette Zombies and their Zombie Knitpocalypse retreat. Say that a couple of times fast, right? The Zombie Knitpocalypse retreat held in Rochester, Minnesota. That was beyond surprising, beyond fun. Such a good time, such good people. Megan and Amy invited me to be the keynote speaker on Friday night. The yarn husband was able to take some time from work and meet me there, so we got to get a little 50 state action for us. We're trying to get to all 50 states as a couple, so we got to check that off. And I got to share a story, and I entitled my remarks A Tale of Two Passions, and my passion for diversity and inclusion. As you know, that's what I do in my day job, and it's infiltrated and spilled over into my other passion, which is the knitting community, the fiber community, I should say. So those were my remarks. What I loved about Stockinette Zombie's retreat was not only a chance to make connections in the community and knit or to crochet, to have a good time. They also added a marketplace to their event. So on Saturday there was a marketplace. The morning was only for the attendees, and the afternoon it was open to the people of the public rather, who would not be attending the retreat but wanted to come and shop. I thought that was really, really a great thing to do. So that one for the vendors, they got to meet not only just the attendees, but people in the community. And two, for people in the community, if there are not a lot of yarn shops, and from what I understood, there are not that many in the neighborhood, they got to come and shop from all these different indie dyers and yarn shops and so forth. Other things that I liked about Stockinette Zombie was they did a vessel swap, so you can swap a mug, and you can, you know, everyone had a price limit to purchase a mug or a cup or a vessel, and you fill it with whatever you wanted to fill it. And then we did a swap, so everyone got one. And then there was also a project bag or pouch swap, so you can swap that as well. So I love all these other side activities, right? These fringe activities to get you to interact and to meet other people and have a good time. So love that. Got to hang out with the ladies from the DMV area, Deb and Ceci and her sister, and just people who, these ladies who I've been seeing at other events throughout the years, and it was nice to get to spend time with them in a different way. And so that was a definite highlight to my time there. I also got to meet Sky Hag, who had been following me and been really supportive over the past few months. So I got to meet her in person, as well as Noni Baloney, who I simply adore. So, you know, it's really great, again, these festivals that allow you to come together and meet people and share your love of fiber, whatever your stitch preference is, shop for yarn, just have a really good time. So I will definitely be going back to the Stockinette Zombie Knitpocalypse again. And that brings us to July. And July, the beginning of July, I realized that my husband had went away the week before. He was in Tokyo visiting with our bonus son, his oldest son. And while there, he acquired me some yarn. So lovely husband that he is. He found himself in Walnut Yarn, Tokyo, and FaceTimed me in the middle of the night and to ask what type of yarn or what yarn I wanted. And so I picked a beautiful, why don't I show you? It's here. I picked a beautiful red linen yarn by Wanderlust. And I know that no matter how my skills are, I'm not gonna do it justice. You're not gonna be able to really see. So Wanderlust is the yarn, and this fabulous cherry red yarn that he got for me, the good yarn husband that he is. So that was a highlight. But I realized he'd be coming back from Tokyo and he'd have to go to work, and I was about to be off work for 4 days. Didn't have any plans in mind. But I really hate, you know, staying at home when I'm off for work for that long, because I feel like I work really hard. It's 4 days. What could I do? Where could I go? London. I can go to London. So I said to the yarn husband, hey babe, I think I want to go to London. What do you think about that? He was like, that's a great idea. You should go. And I immediately sent 2 texts. I first sent a text to my dear friend Ben, who we went through an analyst program decades ago. We both worked for JP Morgan, and we've stayed in touch throughout the years. I attended their wedding. I know his wife and his kids well. Really good friend. And so anytime he comes here or I go there, we try to see each other with my other girlfriend. So I texted him to make sure they were going to be around. And then I sent a text to the London fiber ladies, to Sylvia first with Cherries on Top, and to Millie of Tribe Yarns and Jeanette Sloan, to make sure they were going to be around. And as luck would have it, they were all around. And quickly we decided that during my time in London, we would meet up and take the train out to Richmond Hills to Millie's shop, Tribe Yarns, which I had been dying to get to. So I left for London on Wednesday night, woke up there on Thursday, found a cute little hotel. Oh, I booked my hotel in advance, so I don't want to say it like I found it. But my hotel was called my Bloomsbury, a block off Tottenham Court Road, 2 blocks from that tube station. Great area, central to everything. You can walk to Oxford Circus, you can walk to Covent Garden, the perfect little hotel. So I took the train from Heathrow because it's faster than taking an Uber and a serious fraction of the cost. I got to my hotel, literally checked in, showered, changed clothes, and was out the door immediately. I'm not gonna waste any time. I'm only here for a weekend. We gotta get everything done. Do all the things. And the first place that I went to was Loop Yarn, because I've seen Loop at EYF, but never been to their shop. And last year, my husband went for me when he was there on business, but I wanted to go for myself. And as luck would have it, the owner, Susan, was there. So I got to chat with her for a bit. I, of course, acquired some yarn. I do have that. The yarn I acquired, I'm gonna be making gifts with it. So this is not yarn that I will be keeping. Got this really cute winey color, I guess. I'm doing a lot in this color, and I got this rose gold. So all for gifts. But I enjoyed my time. Cute shop located in Camden Passage, in that Islington area of London. And while finishing up with Loop, Ben texts us to say he's done with work. He's gonna come meet me. So I got to really have a good exploration time of Camden Passage. Found a cute place to have tea. Found a really cute, when Ben got there, we found a really nice cheese wine shop located in the passage. And directly across is a fishmonger who sells oysters. Love that. And so Ben and I sat down in the passageway and ordered some tea and oysters. They were out of oysters, but we did get some really good cheese while we waited for Ben's wife. We ended up having dinner at Treadwell's in Covent Garden. And the fun story of that afternoon or evening with Ben and his wife was, as Ben was learning all about my knitting, and he knows I'm a big advocate or big knitting enthusiast is the word that I would use. We're talking about the skill of knitting. He goes, "Oh, I used to knit." Really, Ben? Used to knit? Yes, when I was 8 years old, they taught us how to knit, and I knit, I made scarves and blah, blah, blah. I let my bias, doubt, creep in. I'm like, did you really knit? You don't look like you learned how to knit. I don't know what a person who learned how to knit should look like, right? And so at dinner, I happened to be on my golden hour shawl on a knit row. And I showed Ben the project, and I did 2 knit stitches. I showed him, in, round, out, and so forth. Showed him 2 stitches, literally 2 stitches, and Ben was knitting. I don't know, because you know what? It's not even my bias. It's that Ben is such a joker that I thought he was just joking. He was pulling my leg, but he was knitting. So much so that he kept taking my project up and knitting on it. They came to take our order for dessert. He stops, he answers her, he goes back to knitting. He even makes up a knitting song about knitting. So, bias check, Cecilia, why would you doubt that? Why would you not think that he could knit? You have friends who knit who are men, so it wasn't a gender thing, it was a Ben thing. I'm gonna blame it on Ben, because I definitely did not, it wasn't a bias thing. I'm gonna say that. Anyway, I thought that was super fun and super sweet, and so the next time I see him, I will bring him some yarn and needles, because now he's like, I think I want to do this again. I think this could be kind of fun. So I think I will help him on his journey to welcome back into the knitting fold. And that brings us to Friday, which was the highlight of my trip, the anchor of my trip. Was that I, reached out to my knitting friends, and they agreed to meet me on a Friday, a work day. And so first of all, I travel for work a lot. I travel alone a lot. So traveling alone is not unusual for me. Traveling alone on my own agenda, that is a completely different experience. So when I woke up and didn't need to be on a conference call, in a meeting, in a session. It was like, oh, the sun is shining, and what do you want to do? So I knew I had a list of a few places that I had wanted to experience, some restaurants, some places to visit, to capture, and one of them was the cake and tea place Peggy Portion, which is absolutely beautiful. So I knew I had enough time because Peggy Portion is located near the Victoria Tube Station, where I needed to meet the knitters at noon to head over to Richmond Hill to Tribe. So I simply loved walking up to the restaurant, to the maitre d', the hostess, and saying, table for one. Yeah, just me, alone. I love it. And I sat outside, I had tea, I had my knitting. It just felt amazing just to sit. I love my husband, I love my friends, but there's something about just being alone sometimes that just is so rewarding. I think we all need those moments of self-reflection, just being with yourself. And I loved it. Even though, my whole trip, I knew I wouldn't be alone the whole time. I knew I would have people to see and things to do, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my tea and my cake and just listening to other people's conversations on either side of me, just being intrigued because I'm that nosy person. So yes, if I sit next to you in a restaurant, no, I'm probably gonna listen to what you're saying. Sorry, it's rude, I know. Okay, so I don't do it all the time, but when I'm alone, I kind of do. So I was knitting and enjoying and planning, and I had such a lovely breakfast time before heading over to Victoria Station to meet up with a few of the knitters. So waiting for me was Sylvia and Soraya and Layla. So the four of us got on the train and we headed out to Richmond Hill to meet up with another group at the train station. I'm not even gonna attempt to list everybody's name. You'll see at the end, I'll put some pictures up and I'll tag accordingly. But it was so lovely that these women would take time out of their day to all come and meet up with me at Tribe Yarns. And so that was our first stop at Millie's. And so I'm not even gonna list names. It was just amazing. And from Tribe Yarns, we walked over to this super cute restaurant, hotel situation or event space. 144, I think, is the name of the space, for our lunch. And it was about 15 of us, very long table. At the table, there was knitting happening, knitting not happening, Layla. There were conversations, people sharing works of, their pattern books, their new works, their new adventures, their new endeavors. And it was just refreshing. Again, as I said, while a lot of good has come from having these critical and sometimes challenging conversations, sometimes it's hard to hear other people and truly listen to everyone's perspective in a fast-paced social media environment. And so the ability to sit at a long table and have table long conversations as well as smaller conversations was so insightful for me, as well as impactful, right? To be able to connect, right? So Ellie was there, Allison, just people who I really admire and respect. And so to be able to come together in that way, come together because I asked them to meet me, just felt so amazing and left me on a complete, I'm still on a high. It's days later and I still think about my time, I think about the conversations, I think about the interactions, and it just warms my heart and warms my soul so much. So thank you, ladies, for accepting my invitation for my impromptu weekend in London. So thank you. I ended my time in London on Saturday, again, waking up with, oh, where should I go? And I made it over to Dalloway Terrace, which is a hotel and a restaurant, very quiet, picturesque place to have breakfast again, table for one. Sat down and enjoyed myself. I have a girlfriend who for a number of years we've been doing this postcard exchange. I mean, like 20 years. And so I picked up the postcard so I can address the postcard and send it to her. And within a couple of hours, I knew I needed to head back. So before I did, I have a charm bracelet that I've had for 20 years now. And on it, it has various charms that really represent me. So everything from books to clothing items, a cell phone, a credit card, and an Eiffel Tower, because I love Paris, but I didn't have anything from London. And so one of my favorite stores is Links of London, which they closed all of their New York locations. So if I knew I wanted to get a charm in London from Links of London, I knew I had that day to do it. And so I hustled over to Covent Garden to get my charms. So I ended up getting a teapot and the London Eye to add on to my very full bracelet. So that was my time in London. That is how I spent the past 3 months. Coming up for the rest of the year, I have a lot of fun knitting adventures planned, as well as speaking opportunities. So I will be at Stitches Midwest in Chicago coming up. I will most likely attend a few of the Vogue events in the fall. So I'm hoping to go to Columbus, Ohio, as well as Austin, Texas. Hubby and I have a vacation coming up. It's going to take us to the south of France. So I'm going to look for some yarn shops there. And Rhinebeck, of course, and India Untangle, of course. This fall is also the New York Yarn Crawl, so I want to do that. And a couple of places that are on my wish list that if I can, that I really want to make happen this year is I would love to, if I go over to Europe for work, I would love to make a stop in Amsterdam and visit Stephen and Penelope and see the Amsterdam crew while there. And my husband and I have been talking about doing a road trip to Canada. I haven't been to Canada in a number of years, and I would love to see the Espace Trico ladies, Sandy by the Lakeside, Eric, as well as Julie. So there's a number of people in Canada, the Canadians, that I would love to get to see. So hopefully that's how I'll finish out the next 6 months. Sounds like a lot, but when I look back at the 6 months, the first 6 months of the year, I can't believe how much I've been able to do and see, and I hope to continue to do and see more, and I really hope to take you with me. So with that, thank you. Oh, not with that, one more thing I wanted to say before I left was my teapot. I want to talk about the teapot of this episode. I'm going to try to talk about the teapots. So in honor of London, this is my London Olympic teapot, which was acquired during the Olympics. We went over about a week or two before the Olympics in 2012. And the tea that I am drinking right now is a Fortnum and Mason, which is one of my favorite tea brands. They're Royal Blend. So Royal Blend, see, I'm not really good at this. I did it. So it's a black tea. I'm a big fan of black teas and chai teas. occasionally herbal, but really my preference is a good black tea with a little bit of milk, a little bit of honey, and you're good to go. So now I think that's it. So thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Give me any tips. I am open. This is a journey, right? So I'm traveling the world, I'm knitting the world, but I am on a journey to be a better podcaster. So thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you. How cool is this? We're headed to Stitch Up Chicago and Yarncon.
Ceci Knits the World.
With Kristin Glass Knits. Hoda and Hoda. I'm so excited.
Okay, I'll try that. Yeah, keep on going.
Oh my God.